if you're watching this video, the chances are you're looking to buy a 350Z in the near future, or you may already have one. I myself have had this one for just over a year now, and it's been absolutely flawless. I do 60 odd miles a day, so I really do need a car that's reliable. And like I said, this one's been absolutely perfect. When I was looking at buying, I spent weeks and weeks trawling all the forums, reading as much as I can about them. And like I say, they are extremely reliable, but they do have their kind of unique little problems that you need to look out for. And to be honest, when I was looking at buying a car, I was actually hoping to find with a couple of these issues because they're really good bargaining points. And to be honest, a lot of them are really easily and cheaply sorted yourself. So what I'll do is I'll take the camera, I'll walk around the car and kind of go through a couple of the the common issues that these cars can seem to suffer. And just to give you a kind of basis on the level of condition of my car, so you can compare it to yours, a bit of history. I picked this one up a year ago. At the time, it had just over 90,000 miles on it. It is a 2005, one owner from new with full Nissan history. So mechanically, it was absolutely perfect. However, it was actually suffering from quite a few of these little niggles. And over the course of my ownership, I've kind of addressed a lot of them. Some of them I haven't. So we had to go through and talk about them, and also talk about how I've gone about fixing them. And my aim for the future is also to do some of these videos as well as little tutorials on how to fix them as I approach them myself. So we'll find someone to park and we'll do a little walk around. Cheers. Actually, one more thing I would like to touch on before we launch into our walk around is just why these cars are seen as so reliable. I guess first and foremost it's the fact that Nissan being Japanese, we all know about that. The second being, even though it is kind of high performance sports car, that high performance doesn't come from kind of crazy high pressure turbos or really high compression ratio engine. It just comes from a big, dumb 3.5 litre V6, and there's nothing inherently complicated or scary about a big engine. And even more so, it's 2.5 litres it's 280 horsepower out of 3.5 litres, and that's not actually that impressive. So the components themselves aren't under massive stresses and strains. And furthermore, the engine generates its torque and power quite low down the rev range, so you don't need to rev the nuts off it to get the most out of the engine. You can just kind of leave it in a high gear and just push on. And I guess that's probably another one of the reasons why they tend to last so long. The other reason, which I think is equally important for ownership, is the fact that these cars, there's bits available everywhere. So you go on eBay and there seems to be always 3, 4, 5 cars that have been broken at any one time, and that's probably due to the fact that they're getting more and more affordable now, and younger people are buying them and then crashing them. But that's good for us, obviously, because parts are cheap, so even if things do go wrong, the chances are you're going to be able to fix it quite easily and quite cheaply. Right, what we'll do is we'll work our way from the inside out. So starting off, the main complaint of these cars is the quality of the interior. And I guess I can see where they're coming from. Like, maybe it's not up to scratch with some of their rivals, but I think for the price these originally were, and especially the price they are now, you can't really complain. But the major kind of things to look out for are these inserts on the door. They're often absolutely scratched to bits. The same can be said with the one on the passenger side. And this interior centre console here, you can see mine's actually bubbling quite badly here. You probably won't find that. The only reason mine's doing that is because you can buy a rubberised paint from Halfords, which is a pretty much exact match for the original. But unfortunately, when I attempted to fix myself last summer, it reacted with the primer I used, which is why I'm getting that bubbling effect. I'll attempt it again this summer, but you look on the Owners Club and people that have done it and where it's worked, it's an absolute perfect match and looks really good. So again, on my list of jobs to do. Right, if we move behind the driver's seat, we can see there's the Bose subwoofer here. A lot of people complain about this kind of intermittently cutting out. It'd be obvious if yours is doing it. And it's actually a really easy fix, and a fix that I've addressed in another video of mine. And all it is the amp. So you can either replace the amp completely, which is kind of expensive, or you can buy a component for a couple of quid, solder it in, and it's done. And that's what I did about a month ago. So you just pop this off, a couple of 10mm bolts, about 10 minutes of soldering. It's really easy, anyone can do it, and that's it fixed. So if you're interested in yours is doing it, check out my other video and attempt it yourself. Again, link to the audio system. This head unit, people often say it skips when playing CDs in the cold weather. Mine may do it, it may not, I don't know, I don't play CDs. but I think the only fix for that is just ripping it and replacing it with an aftermarket head unit. The other issue we get is the airbag light being on the instrument cluster. Often that's just due to a connector that's underneath the seat, and we'll try and get a video of it now. You can see there's a couple of connectors down there, and as the seat moves backwards and forwards, they just get kind of dislodged and disconnected. So hopefully it's just a simple case of reattaching those. The same can also be said with the heated seats. I believe there's a connector down there that can affect those as well. So yeah, something to look out for. Another thing you want to be checking is these identification stickers. They're found around all the car, kind of on all the major body panels and plastics, and you just want to make sure they match, and you want to do that to make sure the car's not been in kind of any accidents that haven't been recorded or anything like that. So if we close the door, this is the GT pack, which means it's got the optional, as well as that, it's got the optional forged raised alloys, but they do unfortunately suffer from bubbling here. So if we walk our way around, I think all of them are great to some degree or another. Some of them worse than others. Got in there. I believe this one's particularly bad. Yeah, there we go. Look, you can see the paint's actually coming off there. It's one of those things that unless you look at it closely, you don't really notice. And because of that, I put it off a little bit. I do plan to get them refurbed. I think you can do it for about 40-50 quid a corner. So not the end of the world, but something to look out for. If we make our way to the front of the car now, we can actually see it's quite flat-faced. Because of that, and the fact that Nissan used some aqueous paint that isn't very resistant, you get quite a lot of stone chips all around the front. As you can see, I've got a fair few here, but to be honest, my car is 10 years old, done over 100,000 miles. I don't think they're particularly bad, and it's not something I'm going to worry about. But yeah, for yourself, so something to look out for, really. We'll make our way to the back, the fuel filler cap. You often get complaints of this being misaligned, and you might be able to see with mine it's not quite flush with the curve in the bodywork here. You can see you've got some movement there as well, and that's actually a really easy fix. So if we just come back here and pop it open, what you can do is where the cap attaches to the body with these two screws, you can just pat them out using washers, and that will adjust how it sits. And I've done that, but I think I need to spend a bit more time just getting it just perfect. I say something to look out for, but not the end of the world. The final issue I'd probably say is one of the most common, and it's the boot not popping open. So if we come under here to the release and press it, you can see mine pops up completely, and then you can pull it up. However, what a lot of people get is when they press the boot, it will only go to that first latch like it's done there. So it'll pop open, get to here, but you can't open it, so you need to press it again for a second time. And it's actually a really easy fix. You can either, I've seen people buy these ones, and these are the springs that push against that to pop the boot. But what I've done is just take it apart, it's only a rubber cover, and just pack that with rubber washers. So it just means it pops up perfectly every time. You may have noticed with this one as well, that it doesn't quite come up as well as it should, and that's just due to the fact that it's a cold day and these are 10 years old, so you can buy replacement rams online for about 30-40 quid. So again, it's on the list of things I need to do, but not particularly urgent. Something else that's related to that as well, I guess, is the fact that there's a weight in here. If you take this off, I believe it's just bolted to the boot. I've heard various reasons why it's there, from helping little Japanese women kind of pull it down and close it, to it being there for kind of MVH reasons. So a lot of people take it out to help the boot pop up. I say, I haven't found the need to myself, but something you could possibly consider. Now if we move on to the mechanicals, I guess these on the spectrum are kind of the more worrying or the more serious things to look out for, but even then, there's nothing really you should be losing any sleep over. So there's a hole, it's absolutely bulletproof. So if we pop the bonnet first, come over, you'll often get cars that tick, and the ticking will be proportional to its revs through the rev range. So do it on tick over, and as you're driving around, and that'll normally be because of what's called a fuel dampener, and the car's actually got two of them. So the first one is here, this part here, and the second one, I should be able to get a video of it for you, is just in here, and you can see it shining there. Looks similar to the first one. So we just tap it a minute, just here, and that's the second one. I believe if you go to Nissan, they're quite expensive. I think a couple £100 possibly. Mine actually did do it when I first got it. I just went on the forum and managed to buy a second-hand one. So I ended up just replacing this one off a really low mileage car, and it's about 30 quid, and it's so easy to fit yourself. Just 2 bolts, pop this off and it's done. So again, saying that initially sounds bad, but really isn't. Actually, while we're under here, is the radiator fans will often stop working. You can either buy these new from Nissan, but I believe they're quite expensive. You can rebuild them, I've seen people do that before, but I think the most common thing is you can buy a complete shroud, complete with fans from Moto, which is just plug and play. I think they're a couple hundred quid. But again, something to be mindful of, so you want to just idle yours and make sure the fans come on. I almost forgot this one, but there's a W brace underneath the car. I'll cut to footage of that now. And what that does is it corrodes quite badly. So you want to get under there if you can and just make sure that's as it should be. Mine's not in amazing condition, but I've seen far, far worse. If we move our way to the back, people often get clicking here, and it's the drive shafts. So you may notice it if you're in first gear and you change to reverse and you're rocking backwards and forwards. You may hear like a click, click. And I believe that's due to the torque settings Nissan uses when assembling them in the factory. So what people do as a fix is they'll take the drive shafts or loosen the drive shafts so there's some play in them. I can't remember the exact, but there's a guide somewhere. And it gives you enough access to pat them full of grease. You can then reassemble them, torque them right up, and it solves the issue. So again, something that could, well, may think it'd be hundreds of pounds to fix, can actually be fixed for next to nothing in just some of your time. While we're in that corner, we'll look at the tyres. So these were often, well, a lot of them were subjected to a recall back in the day for feathering of the tyres. So you want to make sure they're evenly worn. But if there is feathering, it could be due to alignment issues. So factor that in whenever you're looking at a car. Coming to the front, this is probably one of the more serious issues you come up against. Is part of the suspension arms, there's what's called a banana arm. And if you're going over kind of undulating roads and you're getting kind of knockings and bangs, not particularly loud, but you know, enough to hear, that could be due to these banana arms wearing. So you need to factor in a good few hundred quid for that, if not more, when you factor in labour. So it's something to be aware of, really. And if we come round, it's a final thing. Like I say, I'm sure there's more, and I'm sure people will be able to add to it, so please do if you can think of more things. But you often get a notchy gearbox, and I believe it's worst on the early cars compared to the later ones, as they used a revised gearbox in, I think it's 2006 onwards. They used like a CD0009 gearbox. I believe the early ones they only used synchro meshes in first and reverse. I'm not sure if that's completely right, but someone will correct me, I'm sure. But yes, people will find it hard going from first to second gear. I've even read horror stories where you just can't get second gear until the gearbox oil's warmed up. I've had no such problems in mine. When I first got it, maybe it was slightly notchy, but as part of a big service, I changed the gearbox oil and also added in an additive called Molly Slip, and that just sorted it right out, really, so it's absolutely perfect now. So there we go. Those are the main kind of points that come to mind with these cars. Nothing massively serious. Like I say, I've had it for just over a year now. I've taken it from 90 odd thousand miles to 110, I think, and it's been absolutely flawless. 60 miles a day without fail. Yeah, perfect. I can't recommend them enough. Go and get one.